I'd like to just firstly address the comments by members of the government as being the reason for them not supporting this motion, claiming that for members of the Senate to raise this, that somehow it is politicising the issue. I served on the Intelligence and Security Committee for 9 years and was involved in the listing or relisting of a number of terrorist groups. And whilst the coalition was in government, coalition members of that committee were calling for the listing of Hezbollah, for example, even though agencies were indicating that they didn't support that action for a range of reasons. But with the support of members of the Labor Party, now the government, members of the coalition called outside the committee and through committee reports for the listing of the entirety of that organisation, which was eventually done. So this Parliament, this Senate, has a role, just as it does in civil control of the military, to ensure control of the representatives of the Australian people over the legislative basis and the actions of our national security agencies. And in a case such as this, where the element of glorification of terrorist acts is not specifically listed as it is in the UK, which gave them the ability to outlaw Hizb ut-Tahrir, this particular group in question, it's quite legitimate for members of this Parliament to call for legislative change to enable that listing to occur. And it is the case that this government, or this Parliament, has acted in the past where we see foreign influences affecting the safety and unity of Australian people, and particularly bringing foreign concepts and ideas into our universities. And a good example of that are the Confucius Institutes, which have been the matter of some contention over the years, and they have come under appropriate scrutiny, and universities have been required to register and be transparent about their relationships, and that has substantially reduced the influence of those institutes to shape the conversation, the views and the attitudes of both lecturers and young Australians. And so it's quite appropriate to highlight where we see what is considered by any reasonable standard to be a malign influence on our university campuses, affecting the thinking, the behaviour and the actions of both students and academics. And we are not alone in that. There are some people who would say that any such discussion about a group that has a religious identity is somehow vilifying that particular group. But I note the fact that around the world, a range of nations have banned Hizb ut-Tahrir, not only the United Kingdom and places like Germany, but Egypt, Iraq, Jordan, Libya, Morocco, Saudi Arabia, Syria, Tunisia and Turkey have all banned this group because the Islamist agenda does cross the line not only between religion and politics, but also to the use of violence to see their will enacted. And that's why it's important to also realise that whilst it's not our approach, you can see nations like Morocco, for example, a 99% Muslim country, that have banned certain teachings, particularly the Wahhabist teachings, because of the association with the Islamist view and the violence. They've also banned, for example, the manufacture, importation and sale of things like the burqa, because of the association with that teaching. And so even the glorification of this kind of violence and the teaching that goes along with it, the AFP have written in their guidance to parents about how to identify radicalisation and extremism in children, the fact that even things like games, any socialisation, glorification of this kind of violence can lead to radicalisation. So Australians should be concerned, and I support the call for the government to look at what is required under legislation to ban this organisation, but also for whether it's Treasury or whether it's the Charities and Not-for-Profits Commission to look at the DGR status that was awarded to a group that is closely linked with Hizb ut-Tahrir, to make sure that we are not allowing any of these groups to establish themselves and remain as a malign influence in Australia.
Thank you. Thank you.